I just, in terms of the cancer that I've got, it's very inopportune because obviously I want to be around for the next 10 years. It's going to be a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Um, but even if I don't make it, um, I I will, to whatever extent I can, throw my my work, my energy behind what Greta is trying to do. How do we get to a situation where our young people can force our political leaders to change? What's it going to take to force the parents to change?
I'm Dean Walker, and welcome to the Poetry of Predicament podcast, a podcast for people brave enough to face humanity's challenges and problems, and most importantly, our numerous predicaments. The Poetry of Predicament is a podcast meant to inspire us to bring forth grace, beauty, and connection with the web of life in the face of a predicament-laden world. In this episode of Poetry of Predicament, help me welcome founder of Scientists Warning, courageous activist, thought leader, father, and educator, Stuart Scott.
Did you have a format in mind or questions?
Yeah, I do. And I first just want to thank you so much for taking this time to speak with me. And I know it was kind of a stretch because we've connected in a couple of interviews and, talked shop mostly.
Uh-huh.
And, what I didn't get to share with you is that there's a tremendous amount of both my body of work and also a whole aspect of my own practices in life have an awful lot to do with being able to relate in as open-hearted and fulfilling a way as possible with the people we love, and also to create an intentional shared space around whenever somebody in our circle is ill or heaven forbid that they are approaching dying or the hospice process. It's been a big part of my past few years, and I think a big part of what has helped me kind of grapple with global scale loss on the horizon and the grief that washes through my system. And I also wanted to start by just acknowledging you, Stuart, for the obvious depth of spirit and heart that you have. And I've seen that since moment one of the first video I ever saw of you. And it's just gotten bigger and bigger and more passionate and really an extraordinary expression.
I said I cry easy. I'm warning you.
That's fine. I can't imagine a more appropriate environment in which we could share some tears. And that's actually right to the point. Is I think that if you're up for it, whatever you would be willing to share with us, your greater circle, your global circle, about what it's like to be you in these times and in this condition, and how that fits in this huge container that you've created for us to look at the world and the predicaments that we're facing. And you've been doing that for year after year. And now you have a far more personal experience of being stretched and challenged to see your capacity for anticipating loss, mortality. And I know for myself, when I press against that edge, it's a privilege to be able to be with someone else and to share that. So that's probably enough talking from my side. And really, I just wanted to give you an open invitation to share whatever you'd like to open up your heart and share with us.
Okay. Wow. A blue sky here. I can write my own ticket.
Yeah.
Go anywhere I want to go with this within a limited universe of possibilities.
Yeah.
First off, I note that my son Joshua is not here at the moment. He's out on the property doing some work. And I note that because I feel a little bit constrained in what I say when my son Joshua is around. I'll make that self-conscious part of the of what I'm saying. I raised two sons going through the craziness that I've been going through with this climate and ecological problem, and I did not try to shield them from the truth of what it was I was saying, or from what it was I was saying. Whether or not it's true is, up for everyone else to decide, or as we'll see whether it comes true or not. But I raised these two boys, and both of them knew the score. One of them adapted by getting into a life where he basically says, "I want to ignore it. I know what you're talking about, Dad, but I want to ignore it. I want to have a normal life." So he's going along, buying stuff on Amazon like a good consumer, and he's into drones, and he lives in Boston at sea level, a city at sea level. The other one stayed home, Joshua, and he's the more sensitive of the two boys, perhaps, and he is basically depressed, and so I'm dealing as a father with a child, my son, who's depressed because he's taken seriously what I've been teaching for 20 years, Yeah. It's rough because I live in Hawaii. I look out the window and I say, my God, it's beautiful out there. It's really hard to tell that the shit is hitting the fan. You don't see it when you look out the window. You have to understand that, it's 98 degrees down there. Oh my goodness. Whatever, I don't know, it's probably 95 today. But Honolulu, like everywhere, is going through climate change. It's getting hotter than. Mm-hmm. So the question is, we got a lot of people who are talking about extinction of humanity, extinction of species. When is the bad stuff going to happen? When's the really bad stuff going to happen? If we're talking about extinction, if one climate scientist is famously predicting that all humans will be dead by January 1st, 2026, when's the bad stuff start happening? When do billions start dying? So I happen to think that Guy McPherson is wrong, that he's you know, we're not all dead by 2026, but we are screwed. So the question remains: when does the bad stuff start happening? When do we see wholesale? And I can't, obviously I can't predict that. You know, it's already happening. We're already seeing reduced crops, and you know, we're already seeing the heat waves. So I don't know. I try not to make the big picture predictions as to whether
Yeah.
whether humanity is going extinct, whether life on Earth is going extinct. You know, those are ridiculously large. We'll just have to wait and see. My commitment is that we have to keep trying. We have to keep trying at the highest level possible to kick off some huge change.
Yeah.
You know, and at least the words are being spoken by more and more people, that we have to reinvent society from bottom to top, that we have to, at least there are a lot of people who are aware of, who are grappling with the size of the change. You know, as much as I'm involved in futurology, I try not to make specific predictions of the future. It's just so hard. It's just so hard. I do think that we are looking at the culling of human numbers. I do think it's relatively soon, you know, within the next 20 years. But as irrational as it may be, I still think that we have the opportunity and the requirement to change. You know, even if we're going down, we have to, at some point, display the honesty with ourselves that we've done this, you know, and change.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
how to propel that, I don't know. Years ago, I foresaw that it was going to take a massive youth movement to change things. I said, and there was a period when the presentations, the talks I gave, I would always say that it's going to take the youth in the streets before we finally get it. It's going to take massive civil disobedience. And we're beginning to see that now. We're beginning to see that now, but it's going to have to get bigger. We're going to have to get kids staying out of school, not just Fridays.
Yeah.
Refusing to go to school because.
Yeah. Well, Stuart, it seems like I'm with you that the predictions really, there comes I've encountered a threshold that once I get to it in terms of the amount of input of what I like to call the sober data of the world, I start to gag on it. You know, there's really just this, it seems like an interesting kind of almost a denial of what the authentic feelings are if I am in this constant consumption of the next piece of doom and gloom information, and I'm constantly sucking it in. It seems like that's one way to keep myself from actually being present to what's going on in this body, in this life, in this experience. And so it's okay with me if we don't spend much time on things. You know, one thing I'm curious about, I'm curious if there have been any particular pieces of what you are seeing out in the world that have continued to really motivate you to stay in this field, stay in the kind of expression that you've been doing, and that basically that break your heart. And if I may, I'd just give you a brief example from my world. Is I've always been an ocean person, and it's really, that's like watching Jacques Cousteau on television as a kid is what really anchored me at just how important it is to respect and steward the environment, the precious environment we're living in. And that has lasted through to today, where I've just been tracking in these past couple of months the number of gray whales that are showing up dying all the way along the West Coast. And you know, that goes really deep in me. I've known gray whales since I was a child, and it's a big part of how I anchor to the experience of the web of life. And that's the kind of thing that keeps me motivated to just do what I can because it's the right thing to do. I'm wondering if you have anything that shows up like that nudges you on like that.
Yeah, I do. Not just one thing. I have, you know, there are a lot of little ones. I mean, I regarded this as my mission, my job, my life's mission. So it's like lots of things get me back into it. I mean, I feel deprived now in that the cancer situation I'm dealing with does not permit me to do what I like doing most, which is working on this problem. So you know, it's just I've been going to the mystical side, the metaphysical side a lot in my dealing with the cancer, and you know, I'm doing a lot of meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, all the meditative experiences kind of bring me back in that direction also. Just treasuring this complex ball of life out there in ways that most people don't even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, we socialize our kids to, I mean, the extent that they understand nature nowadays is nothing. I mean, we don't have, I don't even know if they have field trips to parks in schools anymore. I don't know if they teach them anything, you know. You know, the experience, the way kids grow up, they grow up in artificial realities. They grow up in digital realities. So I don't know if they have the appreciation of the complexity of a living thing. Keep looking out the window and I mean, seeing the hill across from the densely covered in foliage, knowing how thick a coat of life it's got spread all over it. But today's youth, they're not trained or allowed to see things that way, I don't think. I don't think we let kids just look out the window wondering enough.
Yeah.
I think from the time they're 6 years old, we're already preparing them for Harvard.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if I'm speaking in a very cogent manner now or not, because you know the meds that I'm taking, the chemo and everything, take a whole lot out of me
Yeah.
in terms of creative thought.
Yeah. You know, you were just on a track of speaking about young people today on average, and you've had the pleasure of being around some remarkably committed and focused people of all ages, but particularly some young people, and fairly recently. And I'm thinking obviously of Greta Thunberg, and you saw something there in her, and you saw a window of opportunity to bring her presence forward at a COP meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious if you would share anything about what you saw, about what you experienced when you look back at meeting with Greta at first, and anything you'd share.
Yeah, sure. Um, I when I first saw the young woman, I knew she was it. She was the one.
Yeah.
She's the one. She's kind of got the job of being the I don't want to go for words that are too big, but she's got the job of being the savior right now.
Yeah.
You know, she's the conscience of the planet. Um, no, I saw her. I knew what she was capable of doing. Both of my sons are somewhere along the spectrum, the autistic spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both um, high functioning autistic, like both my sons, as is Greta. So
Mm-hmm.
I can spot that simplicity and uh, lack of subterfuge, lack of just
Yeah.
she. We really do need to protect the girl. I mean, I am quite worried that somebody is going to, because she is so powerful.
Yeah.
Quite worried that somebody's going to try to do her harm, and so. But she's one of many. There are others.
Yeah.
There are others who are no one who quite has the edge that she's got, but. I just in terms of the cancer that I've got, it's very inopportune because obviously I want to be around for the next 10 years. It's going to be a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Um, but even, even if I don't make it, um, I will, to whatever extent I can, throw my work, my energy behind what Greta is trying to do, and what the youth of the planet are trying to do.
Yeah.
Force. I mean, how do we get to a situation where our young people can force our political leaders to change? What's it going to take to force the parents to change?
I'm curious, Stuart, for myself, and then for many people I've had the privilege to be around as they've been facing, like you are facing, an internal medical condition that's profound and demanding, deeply demanding. I know for myself, there have been times when I had shifts that I never could have predicted in my own system, in my own way of being. One of them was a whole different relationship with letting go. And I don't know if that sparks you to say anything or if you have a similar experience, but let me just test the water. Is that ringing for you at all? Does that say anything to you?
Letting go.
Yeah.
In an opposite sense, I struggle for control. My psyche always struggles to control things.
Right.
The letting go part is something I have to learn to do more. I mean, right now, I'm in a position where I cannot spend the time getting ready for the COP meeting at the end of the year. I'm trying to get other people I work with into doing things that will allow me to do the programs I do at the end of the year. But I can't, it's difficult for me to let go of the process and just let other people set things up. Very difficult. I mean, it's quite funny. I send my colleagues an email saying, okay, let's do this and this and this. And then I send an email saying, sorry, I can't, I don't know what I'm saying. Forget about it. It's too much work. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I'll turn around a couple hours later and I'll, so I'm.
That's exactly what I was asking about.
So I'm trying to work through surrogates. I'm trying to trust the universe right now in terms of, I mean, I didn't even know I had that many people available to help me until I got sick, and, but I've always been, one second. Are you taking off, Joby? Will you come back later?
Yeah, about 3 is the rough plan.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Phone call comes up.
Yeah, I'll be here. See ya. Yeah, I'm just an opposite of letting go kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm a control freak.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I was asking about, because our culture, our global culture that got us into this mess in the first place, so highly values the illusion of control and illusion of being able to compete and on and on. The intensity and the speed and so on. These are all things that we've been immersed in since birth, and they're pretty hard to let go of. And I appreciate you sharing what you're sharing about it. That's where you are in your process, and that's exactly what I was asking about.
So yeah, so I right now I'm in a situation where I have to give up control, where I have to stop trying.
Yeah.
I have to go dormant. I mean, some of the meds I'm taking actually render me incapable of
Mhm.
thinking productively.
Yeah.
I have to veg out. So I'm just having to, I mean, even whether it's the healing the planet or healing myself, it's like um, there's a phrase that I want to use: magical thinking, and
Mhm.
I want to. It's kind of slightly derogatory, It's like if you say someone's guilty of magical thinking, it's like they 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 their attitude is that, oh yes, we can change reality if we just think differently. And there are two sides of that. Um, I know you know what I'm trying to get at, but it's a tough thought to get out there. So
Well,
is there magical thinking?
yeah,
Can one?
it can be, in my experience, it can be the one version of magical thinking can be like a way of doing what's called spiritual bypass, to not have to do the hard work that it is to live a life and to do the existentially um, foundational work of being a human being. Um, if we think magical thinking, if we stay positive, we don't have to do that work, or if we just imagine it to be so.
Mhm.
And I would guess that what else you're pointing at might be something like in my still moments, there actually is a great power in generating another reality from deep within myself, from a sobriety and a core place inside myself that lives outside of the intensity and outside of the speed and outside of the wishful thinking, but it is actually something that does have magic to it, and it is something that I'm intending rather than planning for and making out to-do lists about and so on. I don't know if any of that rings with what you were pointing at.
Can we change reality with just thought alone? Is thought
Yeah.
powerful enough? Are ideas powerful enough to change reality without somebody acting on the thought, without some action, somebody doing something? And that's a question in terms of my own health. To what extent is my own intention a factor in overcoming this cancer? Can I shrink the cancer through positive, can we bring humanity closer to, can we bring those who control the economies of the major nations of Earth, can we bring them to their senses? Can somehow thoughts, intention make them change what they do?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's what I mean by magical thinking.
Yeah, I totally get it. And I guess, I spent almost a year laid up after a very serious injury, and I had to let go of everything. I could not do any of the work that I had done before. I just had to heal and be present. And it turned from being, by all accounts, it should have been a horrific hell-like experience. And it is absolutely the best thing that ever happened to me. This very serious injury in which I almost lost my leg and so on. And what made it literally the best experience of my life was my months long experience of grace that was there on the other side of letting go.
Grace.
Mm-hmm. And so that would be my sharing in response to what you're pondering right now about the power of thought and intent and so on. Is I only experienced the immense power of that grace after multiple layers of deep letting go. Mm. And I'm clear that without being able to access grace at will, which I now, thank goodness, can do, I would not be alive now. Mm. I know that I would not be able to face the things that you and I both know and see and dig into every day. Mm-hmm. I would not be alive now without it.
Yeah. Well, we have to use that as though it were a powerful controlling factor. Even if we're not sure that thought does control.
Yeah. Stuart, I don't know how you're doing energy-wise, but it kind of feels to me like we might be heading toward the end of this envelope of time.
Yeah, I have very little energy nowadays, so.
Yeah, I get it. I totally get it, and I don't want to strain you in this, but I'm curious if I could ask you just one more question, one more pondering. I'm wondering if you just took a few moments from the stillness inside yourself, if you had the opportunity to speak to a room full of, obviously Greta Thunberg would be there, but many, many others, the others that you were mentioning and the others that neither you or I know who they are, but we know that they're bringing the fullness of their heart to this, mm-hmm. to whatever is important to them in their communities and their families. They're doing the best they can. And I'm wondering if you have any words to share with them, either your appreciation of them or anything that you're seeing that you would want them to know.
Well, if I could address that group of the young people who are politically in the controlling factor, the wild card right now, I would just I would tell them to go for it. Just the mild form of bravery that Greta exhibited by just staying out of school, I mean, is it's remarkably powerful. I mean, kids don't realize just how much power they've got. Okay, and so I would encourage all of those young people who are just finding their feet and finding their voice to realize that there's nothing more important than the protest. The career is not more important than the protest. Okay, the job you're going to get is not more important than the protest right now. There is no job without the protest. So I would just encourage all those young people to go for it, and to not let anybody cow them about sacrifice they are making by staying out of school. Yeah, I'm reminded of that Paul Simon lyric, when I look back on all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I can think it all. Well, no, I mean, I don't have complete disdain for education, but there's a lot of crap that they dish out. It's indoctrination, it's programming. You can call it enculturation, but it's teaching people that a growing economy is good always. It's stupid. It's a stupid thing, but I mean that's part of what we teach kids in high school, is that everyone wants to grow the economy.
Yeah.
So I think the young people today have to kind of reclaim reality, Anyhow, I'm just very grateful for the work that Greta and her colleagues, her youthful colleagues, are doing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And thank you for the conversation this morning. I hope there's some cogent stuff to put together for people to ponder.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Stuart Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us and to just open up your world a little bit for us to join you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, my deep appreciation for the very strong work you've been doing for so long. And my warm blessings to you, brother, in what I hope against hope is bold healing and bringing you back to vibrance.
Thank you. And I will engage in a little bit of that magical thinking here and say I hope and pray that I can get rid of this tumor and have another 10 or 20 years worth of climate talks to go to. So.
All right.
Thank you,
Stuart, warm blessings to you, brother. Thank you very much.
Take care.
Thanks for watching another episode of the Poetry of Predicament podcast, produced by Dean Walker and the Living Resilience Alliance, www.livingresilience.net. Also available on our website, www.livingresilience.net, is a wide array of articles, online learning series, arranging group and individual resilience coaching, and sign up for our every other Tuesday free support group that we call Safe Circle Calls.